रघुनंद आनंद कंद कौशल चंद दशरथ नंदनम श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भज मन हरण भव भय दारुणम शिर मुकुट कुंडल तिलक चारु उदार अंग विभूषणम आजानुभुज शर चाप धर संग्राम जित कर दूषणम श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भज मन हरण भव भय दारुणम इति वदति तुलसीदास शंकर शेष मुनि मनरंजनम मम हृदय कंज निवास कुरु कामादि खल दल गंजनम श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भज मन हरण भव भय दारुणम नव कंज लोचन कंज मुख कर कंज पद कंजारुणम श्री राम श्री राम। Hare Krishna. Sorry, it was more of an impromptu thing, so please forgive me. Thank you. It's your kindness. You're all Vaishnavas and you are pious souls that you came here, and I'm so grateful. This was more impromptu, just wanted to please all of the Ram Bhakts here. So forgive me that we couldn't prepare it, but this is only to whet your appetite so that next time you can come, and rest be assured that me and Avanish will be so fully prepared that we'll give you extra delight. Jai Shri Ram. So I'm so grateful to Sushil ji and Mataji and Praveen and Sanjeev ji, Simi Mataji and Venkatesh, and of course the in-house resident. I said in-house resident, not inmate. In one sense we are, but I'll come to that a little later. So we start off with what is called Mangalacharan prayers. The path of spirituality is not something that we master. We figure it out, we try to get all the dimensions, all the parameters in place, and we say, yes, we mastered this stuff. But this is more from the grace of Guru, grace of God, actually, that they give us the inspiration from within to understand. Otherwise, if it was a do-it-yourself project like any Home Depot project, then everybody would be a leading authority on Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Ramcharitmanas and so on and so forth. So we beg the Lord for giving us some strength, some buddhi, so that we can actually understand. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Matsamo nasti papatma na paradhi cha kaschana parihare pilajjame kim bruve purushottama bhumau skalita padanam bhumireva avalambanam त्वयि जाता पराधानां त्वामेव शरणं प्रभो गोविन्द वल्लभे राधे प्रार्थये त्वमहं सदा त्वदीयम् इति जानातु गोविन्दो मां त्वया सह राधा राधितराधेश राधिका प्राणवल्लभ राधारमण वन्दे त्वं राधिका प्रेम निर्जिता. Hare Krishna. So we can take so we can actually do we'll take a verse from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is 2:14. Hare Krishna. But I'll give some context on why this verse comes about. The short story of Mahabharata is that no, it's okay. The short story of Mahabharata is that the Pandavas and Kauravas, we know how they. Sushilji, if you want to sit up, there is a thing right in the back. Thank you. So we know the story of how the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they assembled together. They tried every which way. One of the things they say is that, about Gita, what sort of God is this person? That Arjun wanted to have peace and bhaichara with his cousins, but then the Lord is inciting him to war and killing him with okay, I'll wait till Ajit Kumar Prabhu is done. No, it's okay. Because the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, we know the story of how, who is the Sarathi of Arjuna? And they had this beautiful chariot that was given by Varuna or Indra, I don't remember. Huh? Agnidev, thank you. It was beautiful chariot, and it was 5 beautiful horses were yoked to that chariot, and the chariot could go anywhere. And Arjuna and Krishna boarded this chariot. Krishna was driving. And Arjuna says to Krishna, Krishna, please drive this army in between both the, please drive this chariot in between both the armies. And, you know, in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that there were total of how many Akshavinis or divisions of army? The Pandavas had 7 and Kauravas had 11. So each, there is a count. For each Akshavini, there is 1 chariot, some horses. There's a ratio. 1:1:2, 3:5, 5:7, something like that. So for every chariot, for 1 elephant, there are 3 foot soldiers, 3 and blah, blah, blah. So if you do the math, there were about 3.94 million soldiers on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And it was not like the modern day where the person is sitting in the comfort of their home and then they are saying the drone. It doesn't work like that. So the armies were there facing each other. And when Arjuna asks drive in between both the armies, there was a huge gap. 4 million soldiers at one place. You can only imagine the gap that they had. And when Arjuna drove, he saw that the people who came to fight were his own family members, fathers-in-laws, brothers-in-laws, teachers, grandfather like Bhishma, nephews, and mamas. It's like he looked at the people who came to fight. He said, "This is not possible. Why should I kill my own family members?" And then the first chapter is going at length describing about how Arjuna refuses to fight the war. And he says, I live in the forest by begging. And at the end of the first chapter, Arjuna, he takes his bow. What is the bow of Arjuna? Gandiva. It's such a powerful bow. And he had taken a vow. And so he takes the bow Gandiva, he keeps it aside. He says to Krishna, Krishna, I don't want to fight this battle. And he kept it's mentioned here that in the first chapter that he cast the bow aside. There is a whole other story on that, but we'll digress if we go. So the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the 14th verse, so Krishna talks about, in the second chapter also, Arjuna and Krishna go back and forth. They say, will you kill your grandfather? You are asking me to kill my grandfather, which is Bhishma. But will you kill your grandfather? How about will you kill your teacher, Sandipani Muni? And so Arjuna and Krishna at that point were friends. They were not acting as if one is God and the other is devotee. They were acting just like friends. And then in the second chapter, Arjuna says to Krishna that I'm sorry, with all my knowledge of both Shastra and Shastra, which is weapons, and the deep knowledge of scriptures, I can't come to the conclusion what is beneficial for me. Should I fight and kill all these people? Or should I go to the forest and then live by begging? Unfortunately, in those days, there was no oracle where Arjuna could apply for position in case he didn't want to fight the battle. Or Facebook or Google or whatever. Either they had to win the kingdom and live, or they had to live by begging. There was no other choice. In fact, so one of the charges against Bhagavad Gita is this book is very violent book where God only incited his own devotee to kill everybody. What sort of God he is? But please understand that they made tremendous amount of efforts for peace. In fact, we know the story of how they said, please give 5 villages to 5 brothers. They will protect the citizens, because Kshatriya means to protect. You protect a particular area, geography, and whatever comes from that, you just have. And we know the story of how Duryodhana said, I won't even give the land, that is, needle can go, blah, blah, blah. So every effort was made. In fact, Krishna says to Yudhishthir, Maharaj, I will go to Hastinapur. On your behalf, I will ask for this. Please understand, Krishna is Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. On behalf, and Yudhishthira said, oh Prabhu, don't go to Hastinapur. Because Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra are evil-minded. Karna, Shakuni, Dushasan, they are evil-minded people. They will insult you. And if they insult you, our Lord, it is worse than death. We don't want to take it. It's okay. But you know what Krishna says to Yudhishthir? Oh Yudhishthir, the whole world will say, if I don't go, that you started the war. The war will be on your head. But if I go, and Krishna, he knows everything. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in the 25th verse of 7th chapter, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. He says that I know everything that's happened in the past, everything that's going to happen now, everything that will happen in future. So Krishna knew that going to Hastinapur would actually be an insult to him. And we know the story of how he went to Hastinapur, and the awesomely amazing but very stupid Duryodhana said, we'll capture Krishna and throw him in prison. If we capture Krishna and throw him in prison, the Pandavas will lose their will for fighting. But Krishna was saying that if I don't go, then the war will be on your head. And the whole world will blame you for starting the war. In fact, Dhritarashtra tried that gaslighting tactic. They were going back and forth. And then Dhritarashtra said to Yudhishthir, or sent through messengers, obviously, why do you want to kill the family? You are a greedy person. Because of your greed, an entire dynasty, Kuru dynasty, is going to be destroyed. So it's because of you. They tried to gaslight in that way as well. So Krishna said, if I go and ask for peace on your behalf, then nobody in the entire world will say that Yudhishthira started this war. Even Krishna went, he tried for peace, but it failed. The beauty is, God is so inclined to his devotees, so affectionate, that he is willing to, because he is a supreme absolute truth. There was no need for him to go. He is Paramatma sitting in everyone's heart. He can change anybody's way according to his thinking. But just the love he shows towards his devotees, it's amazing. It's so he goes, and then we know the story of how Duryodhana insults Krishna. They come back and the war is inevitable. And how the nature of world is such, violence in this world is inevitable. It can be from, I'll give one example. If there is a person who's coming to rob a house, and if the cop comes and does nothing, then he's not using the violence in the right way. If the cop comes and he's like, hey, you're stealing this person, I'm going to put you in prison. If that fear is not there, that violence, fear of violence or repercussions is not there, the whole world will not survive. And that is on that level. Modern context, a manager in a modern corporate has to talk tough talk about employees who are not performing. Or a doctor who says, oh my God, I will never operate on you. Sir, I'm dying of brain cancer. I'm dying of brain tumor. No. If I cut you, it means it's violence. It's just the nature of the world. So violence is just the nature of world. But when it is applied to how dharmically it is applied, that's a question. And Bhagavad Gita actually teaches us. So in the starting, yes, you have to go. I understand. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. No problems. I can complete it, but thank you for coming. Hare Krishna. So let's open the second chapter and the 14th verse. Yeah. So kindly repeat after me. Matra sparshastu kaunteya Sitoshna sukha Agamapaino nityas Tam stitikshasva bharata. Anish, translation please. Translation and purport. Thank. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Thank you. Um, can we? So, oftentimes it is mentioned how Bhagavad Gita is somewhat. It's not the same like Puranas. It's not like stories and stuff like that. And Hare Krishna, please. Yeah. So we'll read an episode from Bhagavatam if that's okay. Because this is so Matra Sparshasta Kaunteya is where Krishna is saying that that tolerate, but we need some, there is theory and in the school what is called practicals. So let's have some practicals. We read the 11th canto and 23rd chapter. Actually, you're able to get there? Correct. For we can do the, yeah, do 23. It's fine. You're there? Okay. But the prelude to this verse is that the 22nd chapter. Now, Uddhava Gita is a chapter that comes in the Bhagavatam where Uddhava, who is the devotee of Krishna, asks Krishna about different paths, and Krishna instructs him. In the chapter 22nd, the last verse of chapter, you don't need to do that. I can open that because you don't need to project for those. In the last verse of the 22nd chapter, it is mentioned, O soul of the universe, the conditioning of one's personality in material life is very strong, and therefore it is very difficult even for learned men to tolerate the offenses committed against them by ignorant people. Only your devotees who are fixed in loving service, who have achieved peace by residing at your lotus feet, are able to tolerate such offenses. And then the story begins here in the story of Avanti Brahmana. And then we can just do the translation, maybe 3 translation per person, and then we can go. So Sanjeev, you can do first 3, and then you can ask somebody else to do it, and then in that way you can go.
Text 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, Lord Mukunda are most worthy of being heard, began to reply to him. Text 2. Lord Shri Krishna said, O disciple of Brihaspati, there is virtually no saint, no saintly man in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized men. Text 3. Sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as the arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men.
Thank you. So here you can see the power of words. It says that physically, even in India it is there. You know, if you hit him, if you physically hit a person, that person will recover. But the sharp, insulting words that come, they stay in the heart for a long, long time. And whenever you see the person, then you know those memories will come back flooding. Rampriya Prabhu agrees with that. It just come back flooding. It's just the nature of this world, and how you know people set out to get praise all the time, praise and respect and puja and pratishtha. But world is a place where you get both. And when we say matra sparshasta kaunteya, we are able to see in the life of Avanti Brahman about how, you know, just it's very poignant, very poignant. So text, next 3 verses please. Everybody comfortable? This is your brother? Oh, very good, congratulations. Thank you. And your good name? Nithu. Very nice. Thank you, Nithu, for coming. Hare Krishna, namaste. Acha. Very nice. Thank you. And I know Nilamani Prabhu, so Hare Krishna. All right, let's do next 3 verses, please.
My dear Uddhava, in this regard, a most pious story is told, and I shall now describe it to you. Please listen with careful attention.
Is it on? Or is the volume, or you are speaking in a very low voice?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Okay. Once a certain sannyasi was insulted in many ways by impious men. However, with determination, he remembered that he was suffering the fruit of his own previous karma. I will narrate to you his story and that which he spoke. In the country of Avanti, there once lived a certain Brahmana who was very rich and gifted with all opulences, and who was engaged in the occupation of commerce. But he was a miserly person, lusty, greedy, and very prone to anger.
What were these 3 qualities of this Brahmana?
Lust, greed, and anger.
Thank you. All right.
Text 7. In his home, devoid of religiosity and lawful sense gratification, the family members and guests were never properly respected, even with words. He would not even allow sufficient gratification for his own body at the suitable times. Since he was so hard hearted and miserly, his sons, in laws, wife, daughters, and servants began to feel inimical toward him. Becoming disgusted, they would never treat him with affection. In this way, the presiding deities of the 5 family sacrifices became angry at the Brahmana, who, being niggardly, guarded his wealth like a yaksha, who had no good destination either in this world or the next, and who was totally deprived of religiosity and sense enjoyment.
Thank you. So, questions. And one more thing is, please raise your hands, and then we can take questions. So you can see, did you hear people like this who are so so absorbed in wealth that even for their own self, for their own thing, they will not spend money, and what to speak of others. And then the other thing is, the whole family life will become upside down if you carefully hoard the money and not even spend on your own family members. Everybody will become inimical against you. Is that just Bhagavatam, or we all right, good to know. next verses, please. The one more thing is 5 sacrifices. 1 minute, Rampriya Prabhu. So 5 sacrifices are mentioned. If you are in this world, then by default you are committing sin. By default, you can't avoid it. For example, does anybody cook in this world or no? Okay. When you cook, do you have a kitchen, or you just cook anywhere you want, in your bedroom, bathroom? So when you cook, do you cook in cold water? Like I heard these days, you soak the rice overnight and you boil. When you boil, you kill germs. And when you are at home, you sweep the floors. Then you kill germs. Now we get adrak and haldi and everything else. We get the whole things, like turmeric. You get like that big stick. Do you put the whole thing in that, or you grind it? Grind. When you grind, then again some violence is happening. So whether you like it or not, in this world the violence happens. And in this it is mentioned that there are 5 kinds of yajnas that the householder performs to counteract the 5 types of sins. The 5 types of yajnas are, studying the Vedas, offering worship to the demigods, offering worship to the forefathers, then feeding in general, people in general. So 5th one, I don't remember, but these are the 5 types of pancha yajna is meant to counter pancha papa. So that is the balance that happens. But in this case, Brahmana was not even doing that. So he was just holding the money to such an extent that I will not even spend money for anything. One other point. The money in this world is used for 2 things according to Bhagavatam. Shall I tell you? Either it is used for enjoyment, and it is used for religious performances. So money is used like that. Now we will come to this very important question: should we even save for future or not? No, we'll come to that point a little later. But we will read. All right, let's keep going.
Okay.
Everybody comfortable? Okay.
Yeah. Text 10. O magnanimous Uddhava, by his neglect of these demigods, he depleted his stock of piety and all his wealth. The accumulation of his repeated exhaustive endeavors was totally lost. Text 11. Some of the wealth of this so-called Brahmana was taken away by his relatives, my dear Uddhava, some by thieves, some by whims of providence, some by the effects of time, some by ordinary men, and some by government authorities. Text 12.
How many?
Fine.
How many? Okay, it's fine. Text 12. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Final.
Relatives,
Sorry.
thieves.
Text 12.
realms.
Okay, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. You're enumerating.
12. Finally, when his property was completely lost, he who never engaged in religiosity or sense enjoyment became ignored by his family members. Thus, he began to feel unbearable anxiety.
He was happy he lost wealth? Because imagine the state of mind of this Brahmana. He was willing to incur wrath and displeasure even of his own wife and family members. And his whole focus was just, I need to safeguard my money. But the beauty is, money is such that nobody can hold it forever. It's just a matter of time before slowly it goes. Now, here the government took away, the relatives took away. So, and Brahmana's situation was pretty bad. Let's see what happens next.
Text 13. Having lost all his wealth, he felt great pain and lamentation. His throat choked up with tears, and he meditated for a long time on his fortune. Then a powerful feeling of renunciation came over him. Text 14. The Brahmana spoke as follows. Oh, what great misfortune! I have simply tormented myself uselessly, struggling so hard for money that was not even intended for religiosity or material enjoyment. Text 15. Generally, the wealth of misers never allows them any happiness. In this life, it causes their self-torment, and when they die, it sends them to hell.
So that miserly existence means that in this life, I never enjoyed that money. I really not used it for anything. Somebody has to please take care.
Hello.
It's really hard. So, the idea is that misers they suffer because they basically are so much they don't even buy clothes when they are torn. They don't go to doctor when they are sick because money is so it's more than life. It's like so bad. Oh, this band-aid, I'll reuse it. Oh, that medicine is expired, that's still okay, take it. No milk at home, milk is gone bad, okay, make paneer, but don't waste milk. After a stage, think about it, the whole family members, they'll just be so disgusted with this person. And it's mentioned in Bhagavatam that money is not spent for enjoyment in this life, and because the money was not given in charity, in the next life there is nothing. Because for those who are living in this material existence and who are going on the path of karma, unless you give something, you are not going to get back in the next life. Unless you are on a path of spirituality or a Krishna Bhakti, otherwise your karma is not going to go anywhere. It's going to stay with you. So, interesting where we are going with this. All right, let's go, because it's money, everybody is interested.
Whatever pure fame is possessed by the famous, and whatever price-worthy qualities are found in the virtuous are destroyed by even a small amount of greed, just as one's attractive physical beauty is ruined by a trace of white leprosy. Text 17. In the earning, attainment, increase, protection, expense, loss, and enjoyment of wealth, all men experience great labor, fear, anxiety, and delusion. Text 18 to 19. Theft, violence, speaking lies, duplicity, lust, anger, perplexity, pride, quarreling, enmity, faithlessness, envy, and the dangers caused by women, gambling, and intoxication are the 15th undesirable qualities that contaminate men because of greed for wealth. Although these qualities are undesirable, men falsely ascribe value to them. One desiring to achieve the real benefit of life should therefore remain aloof from undesirable material wealth.
Is it true or what? Right? I mean, you look in India. There was a man who started a company. I'll not name names because he started a company from nothing, and he had two sons who inherited his vast wealth. They were like, "Oh, this is like wealth beyond what we have. Let's peacefully have it together and work." Did they do that? Just Bhagavatam is saying this right there, because there was this kind of greed. Then family, brothers, it really doesn't matter. You have so much wealth, you can't like do anything with it, but still there is a quarrel. And people who have excess wealth, to the point, what are they going to do? It's just money is either spent on women, gambling, or intoxication. That's what is happening in the modern world. I mean, how many movie stars we see who have amounts of wealth that they don't know what to do, and they are indulging in this. They have the maximum number of divorces. Why? Not because they are bored and they can support that kind of alimony payments and so on and so forth. Right. Cool. Good. Anything else? Any other points? Then one last point. In earning, attainment, increase, protection, expense, loss, and enjoyment of wealth, all men experience great happiness, satisfaction, experience great labor, fear, anxiety, and delusion. So this is the nature of earning wealth in this world. So when you know what you are getting into, okay, making tons of money is a good idea. All right, it's a good idea, but you should know what is it you are getting into. Then you will kind of realize that it is not that a good idea, because you get the money, you have to be so much of anxiety. But then should I give up all wealth and find the best possible bridge in Santa Clara and stay as a homeless? We'll get to that point little later. All right. All right, we will get to that point. All right, next set of 3 verses, please.
Text 20. Even a man's brothers, wife, parents, and friends united with him in love will immediately break off their affectionate relationships and become envious over a single coin.
How many millions of dollars, Mataji? How many millions of dollars you need to break up? One single coin. Good.
Text 21. For even a small amount of money, these relatives and friends become very agitated and their anger is inflamed. Acting as rivals, they quickly give up all sentiments of goodwill and will reject one at a moment's notice, even to the point of committing murder. Oh my God. Text 22. Those who obtain human life, which is prayed for even by the demigods, and in that human birth become situated as first-class brahmanas, are extremely fortunate. If they disagreed this important opportunity, they are certainly killing their own self-interest and thus achieve a most unfortunate end.
Thank you. So you can just ignore the debts to your brothers and family members, knowing that they are my family, right? They'll forget my debt. They are ready to kill each other. And how many stories are there in India or all over the world? And we say Bhagavatam, that's an old story, man. 5,000 years ago. Shh, kids, you have to be really, really quiet. Thank you. It's an old story, man. It's 5,000 years ago. Somebody said something to someone. What's the point in these days? What's in for me? Don't waste time. Earn money. Bhagavatam is saying earn money, but there is a problem. And I'll tell you one more thing about. One question is going homeless. Question number 2 is, dude, what are you talking about? Work hard, then only you will make more and more and more and more money. Otherwise, you don't have that passion and drive. What are you going to do? Okay, that's a valid question. And then we'll come to that story a little later. Objection number 2. But let's keep continuing. Yes, sir. Yeah.
The transition between,
Mataji, just.
So this description is about what is going to happen in the Kali Yuga, or it's not representing what was happening at that time, or am I?
So Bhagavatam was spoken. The Uddhava was getting instructions from Krishna just when Kali Yuga was beginning. When Krishna left this material world, Hare Krishna, Ravi Garu. So between what yuga are we in? Before that? So Satya Yuga is characterized by really virtuous, correct? So imagine that day. The day is the last day of Satya Yuga and the next day of Treta, or the last day of Dwapar Yuga, next day is Kali Yuga. You wake up, you sleep in Dwapar, you wake up in Kali. You wake up, oh my God, everything is changed. Yesterday everything was great. What happened here? The answer is just to absorb that cushion. What is called a Sandhya period. Between yugas, there are few hundreds of years that slowly move. If the sun sets, it's not immediately dark. Like, in 1 second the sun is there, next second, everything is dark. You're driving on the road, you're like, oh my God, turn on the light, bum, 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 there are accidents. No, it's not like that. Krishna is a little kinder than that. So he first there is twilight, which means the sun is set. There is still some light, and slowly it goes into darkness. So between every yuga, there is something called Sandhya period, a few hundred of years. So Krishna left in that Sandhya period between Dwapara and Kali Yuga. But Krishna is all-knowing, and we can see even in Dwapara Yuga, the Pandavas and the Kauravas fought to death over kingdom. So, and Kali Yuga, you can just only think how bad it is. Really bad in terms of money. So this gives a very sobering perspective, And I'll still answer those 2 questions, really important questions about, earning money and what to do about it and so on and so forth. Yes, Mithul, not Mithul. Because I have a colleague of mine in my office, and his name is Mithul.
Mithul.
Okay, Mithul.
Prabhuji, in those 15 undesirable qualities, one was perplexity. So I used to think that perplexity is like unavoidable, like we are constantly confused, and that will eventually lead to clarity. So could you elaborate a bit on how perplexity is like an undesirable quality for people?
So the perplexity actually happens when the goal of life is not fixed. When the goal of life is other than Krishna, the mind generates so many ideas to be happy. And Arjuna also had the same perplexity in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, to fight or not fight. Because Krishna was not in the center, my mind generates ideas on how I can be happy. So the money generates, should I invest here? Should I buy that property? Should I have more Facebook followers, Twitter followers? If I have excessively large amount of money, should I buy Twitter? And then get stuck in this perplexities. What should I do? If I get into the court, all my texts are open and people are laughing at me, or I should pay money, I should pay the same for $54.20 stock price for that. See the perplexity going on. I got interested because every week we have stand up in engineering, and not only the stand up is given, which is nothing more than no interest as far as technical goes. They say any new thing, the queen died, and they bring up all that stuff. The storm is come, wildfire is come, and then somebody said, look up tweets of this particular saga that's going on. It's very interesting. He has no clue what he's doing, and so on and so forth. So I got interested, and I looked it up. Okay, I read. I said, okay. Then I said, Krishna, this is amazing. You can have billions of dollars, still you will be perplexed. You'll have no clue of what's the goal of life. This is the nature of money. Anyways, I didn't mean to. It is the truth. It's just the nature of money. It's nothing to do with a person having a desire to buy Twitter or not. Is that okay?
So is that like is there a gradient of how perplexed, and like what is the other extreme of being perplexed?
So one of the things in Kali Yuga, in every yuga there are modes of material nature. Means in Satya Yuga it's predominantly mode of goodness. Everybody is in the mode of goodness. And in Kali Yuga everybody is in the mode of ignorance or passion. So when you have excessive money without having a spiritual perspective, then you don't know what to do with that money. Because there is no goal, and you think you identify with this body and with this life as all in all, and how much can I exert, my false ego can be exerted with that money. So that's where the perplexity comes. And in Kali Yuga, because the mode of ignorance is strong, in one of the characteristics of mode of ignorance is what is religion is irreligion, and what is religion is irreligion. What is irreligion is religion. I'll tell you one example. A relative of mine came from India a long time ago, and that person was pretty much addicted to. So that person came. First thing he said is, we'll go to Napa Valley. It's like, I have to come. It's like you go to Tirupati when you go to India, right? I mean, it's like a religious thing. You have to do it. It's like, you offer prayers kind of thing. It's like that. Instead of Makkah, it's Napa. So what is irreligion becomes religion, and what is religion becomes irreligion. Another example, cultured people, they follow Vedic rituals. For example, you do all those things I mentioned. If you are not Krishna conscious, like doing the Pitri Yajnas and everything. And in India, if you go, you are actually an illiterate, superstitious, uneducated person to do all these things. You can see how what is proper religion is considered as something very fanatic and irreligion. And what is free staying of man and women with no considerations or no nothing is actually irreligion. But these days it's become religion. Oh my God, you're doing arranged marriage. What's wrong with you? You should stay with the person. You can see how, Kali Yuga is so changing it in a very different perspective. So one has to be careful, Nitul. Is that helpful? Yeah. Yes, Achita Kumar, Prabhu. I want to get to the end of the chapter. So here, sorry, ask questions. I beg you. But if you want to stay till midnight, because my resolution is we have to complete the chapter. I have no problems. Others might, like they were really the relatives and friends. You get upset with the not, getting the money back or coin. They might have such sentiments if you don't give them prasadam. But please continue.
I have a short comment, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
To what you're saying. So we have in one of our devotee community, they shared that they own a rental property, and while signing the lease, they asked a question. They're the girl and a boy. So they asked, "Are you married?" Because she asked that question, they sued her, and the court case ran for 2-3 years. And so, religion versus religion, the one thing that you're saying.
Thank you. Excellent point. And that's limited to man and woman. Anyways, I'll not get into that. I'll not wade into that argument. Because of the simple fact, please understand that we are not bashing anybody. We are not criticizing or complaining or saying somebody is wrong. Every person, you and me, is an Atma, is a Jiva, is a spirit soul, and part and parcel of Krishna. Thank you. Is a part and parcel of Krishna. And everybody is being pushed by these powerful modes of material nature. And in Kali Yuga, because everything has become so materialistic, with no proper spiritual perspective, everybody is just following the ways and just trying to push through. So it's nobody's fault. So the greatest thing you can help people in this age is to give them this knowledge of Krishna and this spirituality so that they'll become peaceful and happy. Right? Is that helpful? Okay. Any questions, comments? And you know what? I just didn't mean to say Achutakumar. We can have questions. That's the whole idea. I didn't mean to complete the chapter, but there is a reason why I want to go through till the end, at least for this chapter. Okay. More? Should we go ahead? Okay. Next 3 verses, please.
Text 23. What mortal man, having achieved this human life, which is the very gateway to both heaven and liberation, would willingly become attached to that abode of worthlessness, material property? Text 24. One who fails to distribute his wealth to the proper shareholders, the demigods, sages, forefathers, and ordinary living entities, as well as his immediate relatives, in-laws, and own self, is maintaining his wealth simply like a yaksha and will fall down. Text 25. Discriminating persons are able to utilize their money, youth, and strength to achieve perfection. But I have feverishly squandered this in the useless endeavor for further wealth. Now that I am an old man, what can I achieve?
Continue, please.
26. Why must an intelligent man suffer by his constant vain efforts to get wealth? Indeed, this whole world is most bewildered by someone's illusory potency. Text 27. For one who is in the grips of death, what is the use of wealth or those who offer it? Sense gratification or those who offer it? Or, for that matter, any type of fruitive activity which simply causes one to again take birth in the material world. Text 28. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Hari, who contains within himself all the demigods, must be satisfied with me. Indeed, he has brought me to this suffering condition and forced me to experience detachment, which is the boat to carry me over this ocean of material life.
Nice, huh?
If there is any time remaining in my life, I will perform austerious and force my body to subsist on the bare of necessities. Without further confusion, I shall pursue that which constitutes my entire self interest in life, and I shall remain satisfied within the self. Text 30. Thus, maybe preceding demigods of these three worlds kindly show their mercy upon me. Indeed, Maharaja
Katwanga.
Katwanga was able to achieve the spiritual world in a single moment. Text 31. Lord Sri Krishna continue his mind thus determined that the most excellent Avanti Brahmana was able to unite the notes of the desire within his heart. He then assumed the role of a peaceful and silent mendicant. Yeah.
Thank you. Questions? So, you had something? You're done? You're reading? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, I just read the last verse again. Lord Sri Krishna continued, his mind thus determined that most excellent Avanti Brahmana was able to untie the knots of desire within his heart. He then assumed the role of a peaceful and silent sannyasi mendicant. 2 points to be noted is that it's okay. 2 points to be noted is that what was the attitude of Avanti Brahmana? He realized that it is mercy of God. Lot of people don't realize it. When things fall like this, they will say, let's head to the bar. I am so depressed that I lost money. But unless there is good fortune, unless one who is pious, then you are able to see that there is a certain good that's going to come out of it. Oftentimes, when people are in depression or in anxiety, they cannot see what is the end goal. Why did God put me through this? Maybe there are some lessons that I can learn and be peaceful with it. It's a very painful situation, and these are really extreme cases, and that's why they are in Bhagavatam. So, one question we had was that, should I give up all wealth? No, the wealth is not to be given up. We are all householders, which means we need to earn money to take care of the family members. Not doing so will constitute irreligiosity and sin. If a person has a responsibility for the family, he or she must be able to earn money and support them. And should you save money for future? Yes, we should. But in a way that it doesn't encumber the present normal sensual necessities. This is like you go to the tire shop and the tire fellow says, you are almost worn out. You barely can go 500 miles with these tires before they have become really too dangerous. You'll be like, okay, I'll clock 500 miles exactly. That is really pushing the limits. I mean, like, you have to take care of the tires to make sure that you are safe on the road, your family members are safe. But when the goal of life just becomes wealth, that's where the problem comes. Because in the human form of life, often the perception comes, my security, happiness, satisfaction, and everything comes from money. And that is the biggest misconception. Because Avanti Brahmana thought like that. And when he lost his money, now he lost everything. So our goal of life is always Krishna, spirituality. But if our endeavor pulls us, I mean, some people are naturally born to make money. And I know that, I have seen people, and you should do it. But never losing the focus that money is not the goal in of itself. Krishna is the goal, money is the means. So for that purpose, I will earn money. I may be a CEO and I need to feed all the employees or pay that's a responsibility you take. You better do it. If you have to push the goals, do whatever you need to do. But the idea is, this is not my life. Because when I tie my worth with the money that I get, then invariably two things will happen. Anxiety will come. And to handle that anxiety and pressure, it can be a lot for CEOs or business owners. The health is spoiled and they don't know how to kind of cope up with that situation. And they go to either, through coping mechanism, either you go to bar, you go to prostitutes, you do substance abuse, something to kind of, overcome that anxiety. That's point number one. The point number two is that because the wealth is the only goal of life, you will come back again and again in this material world. The spiritual progress kind of gets stuck. So do what you need to do, but not as that is the only goal of life. Point number one. Point number two is this. If you are honestly earning wealth, then Krishna is saying your wealth is predetermined. And think about it. No company is started, I'll pick on Achyuta Kumar, don't mind. He'll start the company. He has a brilliant idea, and now he needs to get funding from the VCs. And then he approaches few VCs. He pitches in his idea, and he'll say, and then the VCs obviously they are investing the money, so they will ask for his arm, leg, and kidney. Just kidding. They'll say, "What's your business plan? What's the returns you're expecting?" Well, in 2 years, I think I'll be bankrupt. That's my business plan. I'm like, get out of here. And nobody will start a business like that. They will pitch saying that mine is the next Google, Microsoft, or whatever. But if every company had that kind of trajectory, then every company starting should have been Microsoft or a Google or a Meta or a Facebook or Tesla or whatever. But how many companies flame out? So the thing is, you will get what it is written in the destiny, provided you are doing it legally. Now, illegally, if you try to do a lot of things, you might get money, but then again, it's a bigger problem to have. Is that helpful? So in that sense, yes, I'm never saying that you just give up money, because in the modern context, it's impossible to live life without money. But don't make that the goal of your life. Make Krishna the goal of your life. In the end, whether you are a multi-billionaire or you are a multi-100 person, you are still having Krishna, and in the next life you will take that where you started. Because think about it, at the end of life, Steve Jobs was $7 billion worth when he had pancreatic cancer at the age of 56. He couldn't go and bargain with the death saying, "I'll give you $1 billion, give me 2 more years." It didn't work out. That's not the nature, how this nature world works. Sorry if I'm if the business people are like, I should have just been doing the other questions, comments. Mata Sirisha, Sriji Priya. So, I'm so used to calling her that, it'll take some time.
Prabhuji, you're saying our goal is not to earn money and end up the life like that. But in this world, especially in Bay Area, we need money, whatever, so much money, and the man is running. Otherwise, we cannot survive. And how can they balance spiritually also? It's not an easy to grow in spiritual life. We need to put so much effort to get rid of another. So how can we balance, not the men, especially you're saying this is also big job, spiritual thing, and this is also big job. So is it time and everything will be available for them to do and grow in spiritual life?
It's not mutually exclusive. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 8:7, please. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha mayarpita mano buddhir mame vaishyasi asamshaya. So Krishna says, Tasmat, therefore, sarveshu, all the times. Kaleshu, Sarve times, all the time. He's not saying that only for it. Tasmat Sarvesh, Mam Anusmara, thinking of me, Yudhyacha, fight. Mayarpita Manobuddhir, Mame Vaishishya Samshaya. So here Arjuna was actually, he was not giving it to somebody who was going off to forest. He was giving this instruction to Arjuna. Now, if you think software programming needs concentration, think of fighting in the battlefield where arrows are whizzing past you every second and small neglect will actually result in death. But he told Arjuna. Now, Krishna will not give instructions that are impossible. He doesn't say, go create planets. He doesn't say, go to find out the 10th mystic perfection. No, there are only 8 mystic perfections. 18, but let's... No, he's giving you instructions that you can follow. And Krishna is saying you can do it. So, and therefore, and the other thing is sadhana comes. So in the preliminary stage, we are not asked to think of Krishna 24/7. So do your sadhana that takes like 2 or 3 hours a day. And the remaining time, go work. At least that time, give it to Krishna. I'm committed every day saying that this is the time I'll give to Krishna. Because at the end of life, everything else will stay, and the time you gave to Krishna, that's what you're going to take. Is that helpful? Yeah, and it's true of everything. I mean, for those who are not familiar, I work, my wife works. Yeah, it's not an easy life. I know where I'm coming from. I didn't come from the bridge being homeless. You need to do what you need to do. Is that helpful, Mate? Yes. That's Achyuta Kumar Prabhu and then Rohini Dalal Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. In the text 22, we read that we have to also give money to relatives. So we have a long line of relatives. How to see and how to give according to Bhagavatam, Prabhu. And
well, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that charity should be done to the right place, at the right person, at the right time, without no expectation. So with relatives, if they have serious emergencies, life or death kind of thing, and they have no other recourse, then helping to the best of our ability is okay. But otherwise, you are not obligated to, for example, if you know that they might abuse that money, you are not obligated to give them, because you will be responsible for their karma as well. So that has to be taken care. Okay. Yeah. Rohini Dalal Prabhu and then Praveen. Same point? Okay. Same answer? Is you satisfied or no?
They may not misuse, but they may not use it properly also. Even if you help sometimes.
That's where it's very,
It's
very...
not is it a serious obligation to give, or it's kind
No.
of, because Krishna is saying that it has to be...
With relatives, it depends. As I said before, it depends on your capacity, depends on the situation, depends on the nature of person, depends on how pious they are. There are many, many things. So it's a very individual question to ask, Yeah. But as much as possible, you can help. And sometimes you don't need to give money. Sometimes you can give some effort, or some food. Give them the things they need. There's another thing. If you think that they are going to abuse the money, then give the items that they need. Is that helpful?
Yeah, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sanjeevji and then Praveen. Okay. No, go ahead. The mic goes faster here. It's just efficient.
So Prabhuji, in this, the realization that the Brahmana is getting, that it shows maturity, that he's seeing the suffering as a blessing of the Lord. But you also said this is, the kind of suffering he is going through is very intense. And you often see in real life, some people may come to the realization with lesser suffering. Some people more suffering and very intense, unbearable suffering. There is a whole spectrum. So what determines that, considering that Lord is so compassionate, right? This Brahmana going through this such intense suffering, and given that he was Brahmana, he must have done some pious activities, even though they were tinged with a lot of materialistic desires and so on, right? So how do you, in fact, I was having a similar discussion with Ashok Prabhu yesterday, Achitya Prabhuji, that, the God is ocean of mercy. How do you reconcile these two views, that one has to go through such intense suffering to come to this realization?
Sanjiji, if I can beg for your patience, we'll complete the chapter and hopefully we'll get some answers. Okay. And the intense suffering, you haven't seen much of it yet, what he undergoes. As we go ahead, we'll see that. Praveen.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This is just a follow up on the previous discussion about helping relatives. The confusion that I have is like, if we give them money, right, they might use it in a way that might cause us whatever, reactions, right? And we really don't have any control over it, right? So it might be used in like harming animals or whatever, right? And how do we then make this decision? On one end, being seen as not helping family members, like, immediate family members. On the other end, like being responsible for some karmic reactions or karmas, bad karma.
Yeah, I think it's a reoccurring theme. It's all depends on the nature of situation, the nature of person that you are giving to. Maybe there is some past obligation. Maybe they helped you out and you are obliged to help. And there are multiple angles to that, right? If they, for example, gave you shelter in the past and you had to stay with them for like a few months, and then now maybe it's time to repay, and then you can't be hard out. So very many things come into play. It's more of an individual question that we can discuss. Any other questions? Okay, we'll continue.
Text 32. He wandered about the earth, keeping his intelligence, senses, and life air under control. To beg charity, he traveled alone to various cities and villages. He did not advertise his advanced spiritual position and thus was not recognized by others. O King Uddhava, seeing him as an old dirty beggar, rowdy persons would dishonor him with many insults. Some of these persons would take away his sannyasi rod and some the water pot which he was using as a begging bowl. Some took his deerskin seat, some his chanting beads, and some would steal his torn, ragged clothing. Displaying these things before him, they would pretend to offer them back, but would then hide them again.
Nithil, read just one more, just to complete that.
When he was sitting on the bank of a river, about to partake of the food that he had collected by his begging, such sinful rascals would come and pass urine on it, and they would dare to spit on his head.
Thank you. The next person. Neelamani Prabhu, or anybody is fine, yeah. I just need it loud.
36. Although he had taken a vow of silence, they would try to make him speak, and if he did not speak, they would beat him with sticks. Others would chastise him, saying, "This man is just a thief," and others would bind him up with rope, shouting, "Tie him up, tie him up." Text 37. They would criticize and insult him, saying, "This man is just a hypocrite and a cheat. He makes a business of religion simply because he lost all his wealth and his family threw him out." Text 38 to 39. Text 38 to 39. Some would ridicule him by saying, "Just see this greatly powerful sage. He is as steadfast as the Himalaya mountains. By practice of silence, he strives for his goal with great determination, just like a heron." Other persons would pass foul air upon him, and sometimes others would bind this twice born Brahmana in chains and keep him captive like a pet animal. Text 40. The Brahmana understood that all his suffering from other living beings, from the higher forces of nature, and from his own body was unavoidable, being allotted to him by providence.
Three each.
Even while being insulted by these low-class men who were trying to effect his downfall, he remained steady in his spiritual duties. Fixing his resolution in the mode of goodness, he began to chant the following song. The Brahmana said, "These people are not the cause of my happiness and distress, neither are the demigods, my own body, the planets, my past work or time."
1 minute. So this is the song of Avanti Brahman. I'll just do the Sanskrit and then we can do. Nayam jano me sukha dukha hetur na devatatma griha karma kala mana param karam namananti samsara chakram parivartayedya mano gunan vai srijate baliyas tatascha karmani vilakshණani शुक्लानि कृष्णान्यतलोहितानि तेभ्यः स्ववर्णाश्रितयो भवन्ति. Now you can do the translation for the text 43.
The powerful mind actuates the functions of the material modes, from which evolve the different kinds of material activities in the modes of goodness, ignorance, and passion. From the activities in each of these modes develop the corresponding statuses of life.
Aniha atma manasa samihata hiranmayo matsaka udvichaste manasvalingam parigrihya kaman jushan nibaddho gunasangatoso. Yes, if you're done with 3 then.
Text 40. Although present along with the struggling mind within the material body, the super soul is not endeavoring because he is already endowed with transcendental enlightenment. Acting as my friend, he simply witnesses from his transcendental position. I, the infinitesimal spirit, soul, on the other hand, have embraced this mind, which is the mirror reflecting the image of material world. Thus I have become engaged in enjoying objects of desire and I'm entangled due to contact with the modes of nature.
Thank you. Dhanam swadharmo niyamo yamascha shrutam cha karmani cha tadvatani sarve mano nigraha lakshanatah parohi yogo manasa samadhihi.
Charity, prescribed duties, observance of major and minor regulative principles, hearing from scriptures, pious work, and purifying vows all have as their final aim the subduing of the mind. Indeed, concentration of the mind on the Supreme is the highest yoga.
Thank you. Samahitam yasya mana prashantam danadibi kim vadatasya krityam asamyatam yasya mano vinashyat danadibhischeda param kimevihi.
If one's mind is perfectly fixed and pacified, then tell me what need does one have to perform ritualistic charity and other pious rituals? And if one's mind remains uncontrolled, lost in ignorance, then what use are these engagements for him? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Points? Questions? So I'll just explain. So you can see how this mind acts. I'll give a little example. Because I have come to this material world and I don't have my own insight into my spiritual nature, my mind is roving around trying to grab the objects of matter, and the material energy is in conjunction with my mind showing, oh, you'll be happier, lively, happier, and then the mind is chasing. So the soul has nothing to do with these material objects, because understand the simple fact, no matter what our position is, we have to give up and move on to the next life. There is nobody who can survive that. So the whole goal is somehow or other we can curb that mind from the material objects and pull back to the best of our ability through the practice of yoga. Then the human life actually has value, and we'll come to that. And you go ahead, Ravindra Prabhu, you had a question.
Vrinjana evatma kritam vipakam. So we look at as, because of our past sinful activities we are suffering. But here in Avanti Brahmana's prayer, he is saying that it's not due to his past karma also. He's saying that it's only due to the mind. So I was just trying to understand the connection between these two.
Okay.
So is this considered some higher stage of prayer, Avanti Brahmana's prayer?
No, we'll come to that.
Okay.
We'll come to that. We'll just go through this, and actually it is an interesting point you brought up. So just bear with me, and then we'll discuss. Text 48. Who's reading? Sorry, 47. My apologies. Okay.
All the senses have been
one
under
minute, Mata. Let me do the Sanskrit if that's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Mano vashenye hyabhavan smadeva manaschananyasya vasham sameti bhishmo hi deva sahasa sahiyan yam yadvashetam sadhi deva devaha.
Translation. All the senses have been under the control of the mind since time immemorial, and the mind himself never comes under the sway of any other. He is stronger than the strongest, and his godlike power is fearsome. Therefore, anyone who can bring the mind under control becomes the master of all the senses.
Tam durjayam shatrumasaya vegam arum tudam tanna vijitya kechit kurvantya sadvigrahamatra martyair mitranyudasina ripun vimudha.
Translation. Failing to conquer this irrepressible enemy, the mind, whose urges are intolerable and who torments the heart, many people are completely bewildered and create useless quarrel with the others. Thus, they can conclude that other people are either their friends, their enemies, or parties indifferent to them.
Deham manomatram imam grihitva mamahamityandadiyo manusha eshohamanyo yamiti bhramena duranta pare tamasi bhramanti.
Translation. Persons who identify with this body, which simply the product of the material mind, are blinded in their intelligence, thinking in terms of I and mine, because of their illusion of this is I, but that is someone else. They wander in endless darkness.
Thank you. Text 50. Janastu hetu sukha dukkhayosya, janascha hetu sukha dukkhayoschet kimatmanaschatra hi bhaumayostat jivham kvachit sandashati svagdadbis tadvedanayam katamaya kupyait.
If you say that these people are the cause of my happiness and distress, then where is the place of the soul in such conception? This happiness and distress pertain not to the soul, but to the interactions of the material bodies. If someone bites his tongue with his own teeth, at whom can he become angry in his suffering?
Dukkasya hetur yadi devatastu kimatmanastatra vikarayostat yadangamangena nihantya kvechit krudyeta kasmai purushasvadehe.
If you say that the demigods who rule the bodily senses cause suffering, still, how can such suffering apply to the spirit soul? This acting and being acted upon are merely interactions of the changeable senses and their presiding deities. When when one limb of the body attacks another, with whom can the person in that body be angry?
Atma yadisya sukha dukkha hetu kimanyatastatra nijasvabhavaha nahyatmanonyadhyati tanmrishasyat krudyeta kasman na sukham na dukkham.
If the soul himself were the cause of happiness and distress, then we could not blame others, since happiness and distress would simply be the nature of the soul. According to this theory, nothing except the soul actually exists, and if we were to perceive something besides the soul, that would be illusion. Therefore, since happiness and distress do not actually exist in this concept, why become angry at oneself or others?
Thank you. Questions? See, we can see how, who is, because one of the things in the world is if we are suffering, we need a cause. We need to find a cause, and usually that cause happens to be somebody weaker in our family, either our children or husband to a wife or a wife to a husband. It can work both the ways. And you take it out, and it's actually a very uncontrolled state of mind because of coming from ignorance. And we can see how my own past karma has a serious implication on what I'm suffering, undergoing now. I mean, we'll do analysis a little later because I want to end the chapter. It's before people start actually coming with knives and other things. Just we'll complete. There's a lot, because every verse can have a class. Every verse can go really deep on why, but we get a gist of how so long ago Avanti Brahman was suffering this intensely, and it is nothing new. The other thing with the suffering is, why me? Why only me? Everyone in this world is supremely happy. Why me? That is illusion. Everybody in this material world is suffering, right from Brahma on the top down to the people on the hell undergoing suffering. This is a place that is meant for suffering, and the goal will be, now that I know up and down is suffering, how can I get out of it? One last example. If you are in the prison and the one person is really suffering in the prison, as you ought to, prison means suffering, and that person calls the jailer, I'll give you money. Why? Look, the toilet, it's open. Everybody can see what I'm doing every day morning. Not nice. And bed, horrible, man. I need some soft bed, some nice. Then they'll say, okay, I'll transfer you to a better cell. You transfer to a better cell, you're still in prison. So better to get out of the prison rather than think how can I adjust in the prison. So when you realize that this is how the nature of world is, there is good with the bad. The duality is existing in this world. You cannot avoid it. If you are young today, inevitably you will be old tomorrow. There is no way around it. So when you come to this conclusion, then you get such spiritual strength to deal with the world in the right way. Otherwise, you will deal with the tensions and crises in a very wrong way, causing further aggravation and further entanglement. So far, so good. We'll complete the chapter. Yes. Now, Prabhu. No, go ahead. I'll make you sit till I and then do the chapter. So no problems. Sorry. Today I'm.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
No. Sorry.
So, Prabhuji, here it says happiness and distress would be simply the nature of the soul. But soul is untouched, like it's.
So this is the hypothesis. Okay, who is responsible for my happiness? This fellow is responsible for my happiness. That is not ruled out. The soul, my own soul, no. You'll see, devatas are responsible. Or my karma is, who is responsible? You want to know the root cause analysis. He's doing the root cause analysis here. You get the idea, right? And now we'll see as we eliminate all those, who is responsible. And then you will realize it's my own mind that has been sitting with me all through the life, that has been forcing me to do this. So I'm sorry for the spoiler alert. All right, which verse are we on? 53? I'll ask Avanish to keep track. He's a smart kid. Graha nimittam sukha dukkhayoschet kimatmano jasya janasya te vai grahair grahasyaiva vadanti pidam krudyeta kasmai purushastatonya.
And if we examine the hypothesis that the planets are the immediate cause of suffering and happiness, then also where is the relationship with the soul, who is eternal? After all, the effect of the planets applies only to things that have taken birth. Expert astrologers have moreover explained how the planets are only causing pain to each other. Therefore, since the living entity is distinct from these planets and from the material body, against whom should he vent his anger?
Text 54. Karmastu hetu sukha dukkhayoschet kimatmanastadhi kim atmanastadhi jada jadatve dehastvachit purushoyam suparna krudyeta kasmai nahi karma moolam.
If we assume that fruitive work is the cause of happiness and distress, we still are not dealing with the soul. The idea of material work arises when there is a spiritual actor who is conscious and a material body that undergoes the transformation of happiness and distress as a reaction to such work. Since the body has no life, it cannot be actual recipient of happiness and distress, nor can the soul, who is ultimately completely spiritual and aloof from the material body. Since karma thus has no ultimate basis in either body or soul, at whom can one become angry?
Kalastu hetu sukha dukkhayoschet kimatmanastatra tadatmakoso nagnirhitapo nahimtyatat syat krudyeta kasmai na parasya dvandvam.
If we accept time as the cause of happiness and distress, that experience still cannot apply to the spirit soul. Since time is a manifestation of Lord's spiritual potency, and the living entities are also expansion of Lord's spiritual potency manifesting through time. Certainly, a fire does not burn its own flames or sparks, nor does the cold harm its own snowflakes or hail. In fact, the spirit soul is transcendental and beyond the experience of material happiness and distress, at whom, therefore, should one become angry?
56. न केनचित् क्वापि कथाञ्चनस्य द्वन्द्वोपरागा परता परस्य यताहमः संस्मृतिरूपिणः स्यात् एवं प्रबुद्धो न बिभेति भूतैः.
The false ego gives shape to illusory material existence and thus experiences material happiness and distress. The spiritual soul, however, is transcendental to material nature. He can never actually be affected by material happiness and distress in any place, under any circumstance, or by the agency of any person. A person who understands this has nothing whatsoever to fear from the material creation.
That's nice. So this is a very nice verse. I'll go slowly and everybody repeat it, because this is a verse Mahaprabhu said when he took sannyas. Etam samastaya paratmanishtham adhyasitam purvatamer maharshibihi aham tarishyami durantaparam Tamo mukundangri nishevayaiva.
I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nescience by being firmly fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. Text 58. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Nirvidya Nashta Dravine Gataklamaha Pravrajyagam Paryatamana Itham Nirakrito Shabdirabhiswadharmat Akampito Munirahagatham.
Lord Krishna said, thus becoming detached upon the loss of his property, that this sage gave up his moroseness. He left home, taking sannyasa, and began to travel about the earth. Even when insulted by foolish rascals, he remained unswerved from his duty and chanted this song.
Yeah, please complete it. There are 3 more. Anybody who wants to do it? Or Avanish didn't get a chance. Or anybody, I'm okay. Yeah, please do all the 3.
No other force besides his own mental confusion makes the soul experience happiness and distress. His perception of friends, neutral parties, and enemies, and the whole material life he builds around this perception are simply created out of ignorance. My dear Uddhava, fixing your intelligence on me, you should thus completely control the mind. This is the essence of the science of yoga.
This last one, I'll just read the Sanskrit. Yaetam bhikshuna gitam brahmanishtam samahitaha dharayan shravayan shrinvan dvandver naiva bhibhuyate.
Anyone who listens to or recites to others this song of the sannyasi, which presents scientific knowledge of the Absolute, and who thus meditates upon it with full attention, will never again be overwhelmed by the dualities of material happiness and distress.
And Hariva, and I pray that all of you today may you take firm shelter of Krishna, and may you be happy and never be overwhelmed by the duality of this world, which inevitably will come upon us. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Other questions, comments? It's 9 o'clock. I know projectiles are being hurled at me, so it's a good sign right there. We'll do a little bit of kirtan, 3-minute kirtan, and then we'll definitely. Yes, Prabhu.
So Prabhuji, last 3 verses basically is the what Lord says, and that is the solution, right? Prabhuji? I thought they're very important. Last 3 verses. Is that right, Prabhuji?
Yeah, and I think many things happen here. Avanti Brahman didn't want to lose his money; he lost his money, and it happens by providence. And the other thing we can see is the attitude, and in that the greatest happiness came from the greatest distress. And it's an extreme case. Even you have nothing and you beg food by eating, and somebody passes urine in the food. It's heartbreaking to kind of see that. First time when I read it, my heart really broke. But then he remained firm, knowing that this person who's passing urine in my food is not my cause. And then if you have that highest realization, then who will you be angry against? It will take there. Please understand, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not a switch that everybody comes ting on and then you'll get material to spiritual. It'll take some time. But yeah, in essence, that's what it is. See, the thing is, at least when kids grow up and kids and adults come to this realization, this material world, what the nature of it is, then you are equipped to deal with this. Getting into, for example, a person has no idea of going to what Antarctica is. He goes in shorts, flip-flops, and what is that called? Tank tops. It's not even full T-shirt these days. Like it's banyan kind of thing. And you drop him off in Antarctica, then he'll pretty much not survive because he didn't know what it was. The whole thing was about. Same is with material world. If you know this, then you are equipped. And the best way to kind of get there is to have a little kirtan, and we can have prasadam later. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshadarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Hare Krishna. I'm so grateful to Achyuta Kumar Prabhu and Divya Kumari Mataji for opening the doors of their home and their heart and their backyard, hopefully, for having this wonderful evening. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming. We'll have like a simple prasadam prayer, and then we can start. We'll all do it together, and most of you know. Mahaprasade Govinde Namo Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punya Vratam Rajan Vishwaso Naiva Jayate Prasade Sarva Dukkhanam Hanirasyo Pajayate Prasanna Cheta Sohyashu Buddhi Paryavatishtate. Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasadam Ki Jai. And a big round of applause for Achyuta Kumar Prabhu and Divya and Avanish and Aradhya. All right, thank you. Thank you. Gaura Bhakta Vrind ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.